Hello, greetings class. This is my Module 7 topic report on end user resistance for Business 5110 with Dr. Stephen Reynolds for Baker College. So what is end user resistance? Put simply, humans are often resistant to change. And this happens because we learn something, especially at work when it comes to learning software or how to use hardware, and then a change comes along and we say, hold up, what was wrong with the system that we were using before? It can take you out of your comfort level, and as we get older, we tend to be a little more resistant to change. So end user resistance is really just saying, hey, time out. I don't understand why we have to change the process that we're using or the system that we're using. I'd like to stay with how we're doing it. Keep maintaining that status quo. It's really a complex phenomenon, especially in information technology, because systems, software, hardware are changing all of the time. And end user resistance can manifest itself in both passive resistance and active resistance. Active end user resistance can be publicly challenging the change. For instance, the boss makes an announcement at staff meeting saying we're going to implement a new system, and all the department heads start saying, hey, why are we doing that? I don't like it. I don't want to. Organizing other employees to resist, starting a whisper campaign or gossip saying, hey, this new system is going to be bad. It's going to be harder to use. It's not going to be as good as everyone said it was going to be. And then the other thing that you can do as an active resistance is to sabotage implementation. I actually had this happen, not in our office, but an office with one of our counties, where one of the employees was literally hiding things, and they were caught on security camera hiding things. That is one way of actively trying to sabotage implementation of a new system. Passive end user resistance can take the form of absenteeism or truancy, not making it to meetings, coming up with excuses, something called work slowdown, just taking your time, making excuses, having other things get in the way before implementing that new change. And also employees might misunderstand directions on purpose as a way of passive end user resistance. There are a number of ways to overcome end user resistance. Training is a really great example. I think a lot of people feel when a new system is being implemented that they feel like they're on their own to figure it out. And having some good training set aside during the day where people can ask questions and learn the new software, hardware, can ease people's tensions and anxiety about the change that's coming. Listening is another great strategy. Sometimes people just want to have their thoughts heard, and by listening to their concerns, it can validate the way that they feel, and you can overcome resistance in that way. Communication is a third very important tool. Just handing out a memo saying, hey, we're implementing this new software tomorrow may not be a great strategy. Get everybody in the room together. Explain the hows and whys. This is the current system we're using. It's great, and it's worked for X number of years for this company. We're moving to a new platform. This is why. There's cost savings. There's a more friendly framework. It'll be easier for you to use, and we're really excited about it. And communicating that excitement can overcome resistance too, because it's a positive way to talk about change, which again, we're all naturally resistant to change. I'd like to give you an example from my workplace. When I began working for Clinton Township in 2014, we did not have a good system to communicate an emergency, a community-wide emergency, to the public. Prior to my arrival, the emergency management coordinator had been using a landline-based system. It was very expensive, prohibitively expensive, and everyone was moving from having landlines to cell phones, and so there was no way to guarantee that if there was an emergency within our community, that people would get those messages. So in my hometown, our police officers were using something called Nixle, which was recently incorporated into a company called Everbridge. And it's a really easy system for the end user, me, to use to send out a message and for you to receive. I took some meetings with our police chief, our fire chief, and our emergency management coordinator, and I was met with a lot of resistance because it was change. You're new here. We've done things the same way for years, everything's fine. So I had to change my strategy. And I met individually with some of our department heads and talked about how it was free, so there was no cost to the township. They do have a more expensive version, but I said, why don't we start with the free version to get our feet wet and learn how to use it? I had to overcome people saying, well, when are you going to use it? How often are you going to use it? For what types of emergencies? So I had to do a lot of research. And then the last thing that ended up happening to get this implemented was finding a champion. Sometimes you just need someone to say, to hold the torch for that change. And in this case, it was our police captain who was responsible for communicating emergencies to schools. And he said it's a tireless, thankless job because if I reach out to one school district but I don't reach out to another, they'll feel like I've left them out. And I said, well, this is a universal system. It can work for teachers, principals, any member of the public. And many communities around the state of Michigan are also using this system. So what we do is I log into Nixle, and I have an agency login account. And let's say there's a major accident. It's shut down one of our busiest streets, and it's causing all sorts of problems. I can log in, I can type a brief message saying, please avoid the intersection of M59 and Gratiot, rollover accident, use caution, avoid area. And then I can have that message sent to your cell phone, to your email, to Facebook, where I've linked it to the police department Facebook page, and to Twitter. This has been proven to be enormously successful. We did end up upgrading to the more expensive platform so we could have more data, see how many people are opening their messages, how many are sharing their messages, and how we are growing the platform. And we now have over 3,000 residents using this system, and they like it very much. So it was a challenge to overcome end user resistance, but once I got buy-in, found a champion, demonstrated that it was added value, it would make people's lives easier, then all of a sudden the resistance eased. Thank you very much for your time. Here are my references from the presentation, and I certainly hope all of you out there, wherever you are at work, can use some of these tips and tricks to overcome end user resistance in your workplace.